Now, we know for a fact, and have plenty of data to support the notion, that the instruments of state are unfit for purpose. And this has no doubt been a real significant driver of the disconnect, the discontent between voters and Westminster. The learned helplessness that has built up election after election. You know, voters vote for the blue team time and again, and they get the opposite of what they voted for. And frankly, based on a year of Labour government already, we don't need 14 years, we already have a conclusion. You vote for the red team and you get exactly the same thing, just faster. So we know that there is a real problem inside the machinery of state. We already have some ideas about how we're going to address that, but this work, while it has started and it's in full flow, has much more to go, most likely several years to go, and we are going to need help. One of the interesting things that I saw this morning was a chart in The Economist which showed, for example, just to put some meat on the bone of what I just said, we have a black hole. We keep hearing about these black holes in public finances, and there seems to be an endless supply of hard-earned taxpayer money that seems to go into state apparatus. Yet there was a chart in The Economist that laid bare a massive challenge for this country, which was since 1997, productivity in the private sector is up about 45%. Now, that's still a lot less than, say, the United States of America. The productivity growth in this country basically stalled after the great financial crisis, but 45%. Productivity growth in the public sector is essentially zero in that time. And that is despite, think about what's happened since 1997, the advent of the internet, automation, AI now. So, and that chart does not even do justice to the catastrophe of this situation. Because, for example, if it was a business, the asset that's doing really well generally gets more capital, and the asset that's doing really badly gets less. It is the opposite in politics, right? So we have to ask ourselves serious questions about why so much of the state is underperforming so catastrophically. And I'll leave you with this. Probably the most apt summation of what we saw over the last few days with this illegal migrant who committed a sex offence and then was apparently accidentally let free is that the British state's descent into being a Monty Python sketch is complete. And if anyone has any doubt that Britain is broken and that Britain needs reform, one need look no further than that. So with that, I'm going to hand over to the main man today, Danny Kruger.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you all. Thanks for coming. It's very good to see you all. So a lot of my old friends from the think tank world here today, including Tim Knox, my first boss in Tufton Street out in force today. So good to see you all. I'm going to start by risking a metaphor. And people keep asking me how I feel having left the sinking ship of the Tory party. And I feel pretty good. We are riding high, the wind is in our sails. I'm on a ship that is actually going somewhere. And of course, as we all know, reform is a bit of a pirate ship, led by a buccaneering, charismatic captain, an ill-disciplined crew, sometimes badly ill-disciplined, but a powerful ship with a dangerous broadside, a terror to its rivals. Now, the job of Zia and Nigel and Richard and me and our colleagues is to help turn this pirate ship into His Majesty's Royal Navy ship of the line, ready to enter the King's service and serve our nation. That is our job, and it's a serious job. And yes, reform believes that politics can be fun. But the people I've met since joining this party last month are deadly serious. And I was at a street stall this weekend. David Bull, our chairman, organised a national membership drive, and we had stalls across the country. And I was at one in Wiltshire. And one of our activists said to me about Labour and the Conservatives, he said, they call themselves the grown-ups, but they're not. They're just playing at politics. We, Reform, we need to be the real grown-ups. We need to actually take charge of the system and make it better and make it work for the country. And he was right. So, Let us start with the problem. And polling and focus grouping and door knocking and all of our personal experiences confirm the state of Britain in 2025. Nothing works properly. It's impossible to build anything. The streets are dirty and unsafe. Taxes and prices are far too high. Immigration is changing our country for the worse and far too fast. And we are becoming poor, sick and unhappy. There is a malaise over Britain. And these problems are complex, but the effective cause of them is simple. Since 1997, we have had governments that, firstly, don't share the attitudes of the country they govern, and secondly, they aren't properly in charge of the state. So we will change that. Reform UK will be a government of national preference, preferring the ideas, the institutions and the people of the United Kingdom over the ideas, institutions and citizens of elsewhere. And we will restore the basis of our democracy, putting ministers properly in charge of the government and answerable to Parliament for their decisions. So let me set out what we will do if we win a majority. And I want to briefly discuss four things this morning. The first thing is this: we will be ready. When Nigel Farage walks into number 10 as Prime Minister on the day after the next election, I don't want the Cabinet Secretary to welcome him in like the latest short-term tenant of the building, sit him down for a briefing on the House rules, and then politely ask if he'd like to change anything about the decor. I want Nigel and his Cabinet to sit the civil servants down and tell them the plan. And the plan is going to be a lot bigger and more structural than a few pieces of decorative legislation. So we are working with policy specialists, with lawyers, with parliamentary draftsmen, and with the whole range of former and serving officials who are helping us plot a path through the thicket of Whitehall and parliamentary process. If we win the election, we will have legislation drafted and ready to go, a new ministerial code and civil service code drafted, orders in council prepared, people lined up for key appointments, and it will all start on day one. So the first thing is we will be prepared. The second thing that we will do is to grip the civil service itself. It is simply not acceptable, and Reform UK will not accept, that ministers have to take advice from and trust the execution of their decisions to officials who answer to different bosses than them and whom they cannot, when they need to, quickly remove from their posts. So we will bring more expertise, advice and executive capability from outside government to serve in Whitehall. We will reform the Civil Service Code to ensure that officials at the top of the civil service, and certainly those at the centre of government, are directly answerable to politicians, including for their jobs. And let me be very clear, the growth of the civil service will be reversed. Now, after falling in the wake of the global financial crisis, the headcount of the civil service rose again after Brexit. Shame on the Tories. And it passed 500,000 in 2003. So we put the civil service on notice that under a reform government, we expect the headcount to fall dramatically. And it won't be like last time under the Tories, when they reduced numbers and froze pay, and the civil service just gave themselves all promotions, up the pay scale, and therefore pay rises, and we ended up with a bigger wage bill than before. You can see there this absurd transformation of the shape of the civil service from a pyramid to basically a pillar, with more people at the top than at the bottom. So that has got to change. And as we do that, as we cut the system, cut the headcount, we can do something else. And this is another thing I hope the civil service will be ready for if we win power. In the last 30 years, as the size of government grew, so did its physical footprint, both beyond London and Westminster. Britain used to administer an empire from a couple of buildings grouped around Downing Street. In the 1820s, Sir Robert Peel ran the Home Office with 17 officials. Lloyd George delivered the People's Budget in 1911 with a treasury of 26 people. And of course, in those days, Westminster was a residential district. Now, in 2025, it's a wasteland of acronyms: the MOJ, the DWP, the DFT, the DFE, the DHSC, the MHCLG, all housed in these great glass and steel towers, mostly empty, because everyone's working from home. So if we look at this map here, you can see at least 5 buildings whose leases are all coming up for renewal before the end of the next Parliament. And a reform government will not renew those leases. There's something in the region of 100 million of annual savings right there, just in those buildings. £500 million over a 5-year term. So a more concentrated government machine will be cheaper, leaner and more accountable to ministers, Parliament and the public. And our ambition is to make Whitehall, Whitehall again, to restore the civil service to the street called Whitehall. So I've explained that we will be ready for government and we will take back control of the Whitehall machine. The third thing we'll do is this. We'll make sure the wider system outside Whitehall also respects the mandate of the government. Nigel Farage will not let established conventions or vested interests or bogus appeals to higher authorities than the will of Parliament get in the way of the plan that has been accepted by the public in a general election. We want to restore the proper basis of our democracy, whereby public servants answer to ministers who answer to Parliament. We don't come with a chainsaw or a wrecking ball. We respect the institutions of the country, the armed forces, the police, the church, the judiciary, and we respect the professionalism and expertise of the people who work in them, so long as those people respect in their turn the right of Parliament and of ministers to make the rules they work by. That means ensuring the House of Lords does not obstruct legislation passed by the Commons. It means stopping public sector unions, sabotaging the reforms the public rightly demands. And it means exiting international legal conventions and changing the rules on judicial review that allow judges to countermand the decisions of the government. The price of judicial independence is that the courts should be genuinely non-political, without the power to apply their own notions of what the law should be, let alone to block or reverse decisions rightly made by the government. That is the real rule of law, the independent application of laws made by Parliament. So to recap, we will be ready for government, we will grip the Whitehall machine, and we won't let the wider system stop us. And this is my fourth and final point. The institution we respect the most is our sovereign Parliament. International law and the civil service and the quangocracy and the trades unions, they are not there to second-guess the government. But Parliament is. Now, Reform UK is not best pleased with the current Parliament. Yet, what was Brexit for? What are our elections for, if not to establish and empower our sovereign Parliament? Reform UK will restore parliamentary government. That means using its existing powers, as Nigel suggested we do yesterday, to set up a proper parliamentary commission to look at the grooming gangs. And it means restoring the role of Parliament as the proper legislative body of the country. Our immediate priorities require legislation that, backed by our election mandate, we will pass as fast as we can. But alongside this rightful urgency, we will reform Parliament to ensure it does its proper job to scrutinise bills and hold the government to account on behalf of the public. Let me finish with a call to action. We need help now as we prepare for government. Zia Youssef and my parliamentary colleagues and I are setting up a series of advisory groups and sounding boards to gather insights into how things work and how they need to change. I'm publishing a blog today setting out what I've been saying in greater detail. If you feel you can contribute publicly or privately, please get in touch with us, because I can't stress enough the weight of responsibility, the importance of the mission that Nigel, Zia, Richard and the rest of us have taken on. The fundamental reason that people are increasingly backing reform is because they believe us when we say we will bring change. In 2016 with Brexit, in 2019 with Boris Johnson, people voted for change, but they got chaos and stasis, crisis and drift. The current government came into office promising change, but everything has carried on as before, indeed worse. And I'm not sure our democracy can stand another government promising change and delivering failure. I know Nigel Farage is determined to be different, but to help him be the Prime Minister the country so badly needs him to be, we need the country's help. So if you want to help get the pirate ship reform transformed into HMS reform, ready to govern, then please join us. Step up, step forward, get involved. Britain needs reform, and reform needs you.